Kalkadosh, Boker Or, Bekiim Bahalacha, 3 days 67, Siman Tet, Halacha Yod Daled. We're now going to speak about the soldiers. Okay? So, Chayal המשרת בצבא, בסיירת מיוחדת שעליו ללבוש רק בגדים בצבע ירוק. Yeah? So imagine, you got a special unit, they're only allowed to wear a certain color, let's say, for example, green or whatever it is, in order to be camouflaged, in order to be hidden, concealed. So therefore, what do? יעשה את בגד הטלית והחוטים בצבע ירוק, so do everything ירוק. ובטלית קטן, right? עדיף שילבש הטלית תחת בגדים, so now טלית קטן, do it underneath the clothing. ואם אין לו אפשרות לעשות כן, יעשה את הטלית בצבע ירוק, so then do everything green. So that's what it says over here. If they're able to wear the talit katan under the clothing, that's preferable, right? But he says otherwise, they should likewise dye the talit katan and the tzitzit, and then they just have it without any problem. So look in 72. And footnote to Halacha 12, it was explained that according to Maran, one should always have the tzitzit match the color of the garment to which they are attached. The Sephardic Jews follow this ruling. Based on this, the Yosef says that when necessary, as in the case of camouflage soldiers, one may wear a colored talit with colored tzitzit, and if he's a Ashkenazic soldier, he should use the white tzitzit in a colored talit, unless it's going to be prohibited. Well, obviously if they prohibit it, so then it's going to be a problem. But if not, so then it will be fine. Okay, so that was Halacha Yodalit. Halacha Tedvav. Tov lizaher shelo yeh beged hatzitzit savua be'adom. It's good that you shouldn't be colored red. Ki'im b'lavan, but only white. Ki hatzeva adom hu siman hachet, because red is a siman of chet. והלבן is siman of mechila. כדכתיב אם יהיו חטאיכם כשנים כשלג ילבינו. So what does that mean? So basically always, right, you're going to come and you're going to avoid wearing the talit with red dye, because again, this is like, we don't want to mention sins.
I have a red.
So the truth is there does exist a concept, there's two things. There's number one, there's tzniut, and then there's number two also, there's a concept of chukot hagoyim. So tzniut, you're right, red is something which screams out, right? And therefore, since it screams out, so therefore you're right, a woman should not wear red clothing or anything of red, right? It calls out, right? That's why a man is less problematic mitzad the tzniut. Now mitzad chukot hagoyim, that's another thing, right? Was if they would come and they would only wear red, or they would wear red for certain things. Yeah, no, so nowadays it's completely different. But let's see 73. Rabbeinu Bachya comes and he says, he brings down Rachim Falache, and he says that we are obligated to wear talit while praying. His source is the Talmud, right? And that Hashem showed Moshe Rabbeinu how to pray by him himself being kilu the shliach tzibur. So therefore, obviously, the concept of Hashem wrapping himself in a talit means, right, that he adopts the posture of forgiving our sins by putting himself in white. So for obviously, if it, and by the way, the other pasuk that we said about having the, vaya tufim lelavan, that the mitzvah of datifa should be with white clothing, and that is going to be in this week's parasha, okay, to do with the sheep and everything. Fine. Halacha tetzayin. חוטי ציצית שהשתנת צבעם לצהוב או אפור מחמת יושנם. What happens if you've got the chutim? So we're talking about the strings. They change color. It's not that it was a certain color. They change color, whether it's going to be to yellowish or going to be to grayish. Why? It's old. נהגו שלא להקפיד בזה. The minhag is not to be מקפיד, משום שבתחילת עשייתם היה צבע, because at the beginning they were white. ובפרט אם הם מתלבנים מן הכלא, especially if you could whiten them without any problem, שכשרים בוודאי, for sure it's going to be kosher. לכן אפילו אם ניתז או נשפך על הטלית ציצית משקה צבוע או דיו, אחד אומר, שני יורה לו לכביסה, אין קפידה מכך מדינה, וקשה לי בלכל מצווה. Meaning, the one was all of a sudden it got tinted, right? Somebody came, they spilled coffee all over, right? Or whatever the case is, yeah? Ever since then, the guy doesn't come back, yeah? So what happens, right? So all of a sudden, right? What happens is that it doesn't matter. We're not makpid. It doesn't come out. No, but at the beginning, since it was going to be kosher, so therefore that's it. We're not going to have any problem, right, whatsoever. Okay, let's continue. Umi kol makom. Nevertheless, okay, en raui lilbosh talit אשר שינה מריתו מאוד מחמת רוב זיעה ולכלוך, עד שיחבסו, שיש להדר על כל חפץ של מצווה שיהיה מכובד ומהודר, כמו שכתוב, זה לי וענווהו. Meaning that, let's say a person wore it, and it changed colors, whether it's because of sweat or because of other things. He says it because it's old. Don't wear it. Why? Right? You have a mitzvah to wear a nice garment. So for when you come in, you're wearing a clothing which is going to be all old and it even changed its color and all these things. It's not proper. So this is the lashon of the seder hayom. Tov lizayer sheyat tzitziot mehudar v'naev v'naki. Should be very careful. The tzitziot should be very nice beautiful, clean. Shouldn't be torn, right, or dirty, or disgraced. Since you're doing a l'shem mitzvat, right, make it beautiful. Even if you're going to pay for it, it doesn't matter. It's yod are expensive. But he says, but don't worry about it. He says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will pay you back. Right, he says, וכמה מהגנות והבושה למי שמתלבש בלבושים נעים קשה תשיג ידו, והטלית בלוי וקרוע. He says, look how terrible it looks that you have, that a person comes and he's got beautiful clothing. So imagine, he's got boss and he's got all these, all these makes and all these things, right? And then afterwards, he says the talit is balui v'karua. Yeah, the talit is going to be torn up and everything. What's going on? Yilbash busha v'tatef klima. He's going to be wearing embarrassment, right? He says it's embarrassment. He says he's going to be wrapped in shame. It says here in English. Right? He says his nefesh should be mamash terrible. He should actually be worried, right, for the nikama. Wow, that's powerful. Nikama. Kadosh Baruch Hu, that's what it says. He says if a person has beautiful clothing, but his talit is like torn, he says he gets a huge onish. Yeah, those powerful words. There's not the stam anybody talking. You know what I'm saying? So it's powerful stuff over here. Yeah? Yeah, 74. Rav Moshe Hagiz, right? He taught a person must make sure to care for his soul's honor more than he cares for his body's honor, since his soul is attached to Hashem above. If someone honors his soul by studying Torah and performing mitzvot, he's at the same time honoring Hashem. In every instance, one's first concern should be for Hashem's honor. If someone honors his body with nice clothing, he must certainly honor his master by serving with a beautiful talit, right, and tefillin. If a person thinks this way, so he's always going to be afraid of sin, and he will be deep in shame and pain over his past sins. And the response of the Tshuva Banagot states that if someone continues to wear a talit that has become filthy, he's guilty of belittling the mitzvah. It is possible that he loses the credit for the mitzvah altogether, in fact. He could be, he's going to be, so then אין לו בגדים נעים. Okay, זה לא מה שאנחנו מדברים. Yeah? Again, the case is talking about where a person has beautiful clothing, and then he comes and he says, and he's got terrible tzitzit. Does it make sense? Yeah?
Because one קיבל חולצה למישהו מסכן, מה?
So, הלכה י"ז. Right, הלכה י"ז says like this, מה שמצוי כיום שנותנים תכלת בציציות, הנה אין הדבר ברור באופן החלטי שזה התכלת אמיתי, ולכן לא ראינו להרבה מגדולי הדור שנהגו בזה, והנכון הוא שכל אחד ינהג לפי מנהג גדולי הדור, right, ומנהג רבותיו. So basically he just says like this, he says nowadays some people claim that they have identified the genuine tchelet, and the procedure to fulfill the mitzvah with the tchelet. Nevertheless, it's not at all clear that they have the behemet really found the tchelet, and therefore for this reason, few of our generations leading Torah scholars have bothered to acquire them. The correct course is for ordinary people to emulate the practice of the Gdolei Ador of their generation. So again, basically he's just saying, listen, if you don't see the Gdolei Ador that are doing it, right, so therefore why are you going to do it? Okay, הלכה י"ח, מי שיש לו צמר שגזז מבהמה בעת קיום מצוות ראשית הגז, טוב שיקח צמר זה לעשות חוטי ציצית. He says somebody has צמר that they sheared from the wool. Right? Remember, when you take the sheep, you come and you shear it, and it's going to be a mitzvah of Reshit Agez, right? The first shearings, and it goes to the Kohen. So he says it's good to make from that semer chutet tzitzit, right? So he says over here like this. Again, that should be given to the Kohen. So it says here the Michtevei Torah includes a letter from the Ger Rebbe, the Imre Amet, right, to his son, the Lev Simcha. Explaining that he sent him once a woolen strands made from wool, and he pronounced Reshit Agez, instructing him to make tzitzit with them. This is similar to well-known halacha about the bread used for the mitzvah Veruv Tavshilin, that it should be used for an additional mitzvah as lechem mishneh. In this case as well, since the wool has been used, right, for the mitzvah Reshit Agez, it's commendable to use it for another mitzvah as tzitzit. Meaning, once you did one mitzvah with it, continue coming and doing more mitzvot with it, because that's what a person should always be doing, one mitzvah with another mitzvah and continuing with a bunch more mitzvot.